Good evening. Happy Halloween, and thank you for joining me for the 100th episode of the Blue Flower Flosstube. I didn't have a white cat, but I did have a porcupine, and for those of you who are wondering why that is, it will all be made clear at the Jingle Ball. But seriously, 100 episodes! Thank you so much for joining me 100 times for many of you. It's been such a pleasure and a journey, and I have loved spending this time with you. Now, it's been a busy couple of weeks since the last video. I went to the Shepherd's Needle for a great retreat. We had Jingle Ball ticket sales open. We packed up all our kits and mailed them off. So there's been a lot going on, which is why I didn't get to you last weekend, but it made it a little extra fun to do it on Halloween. And I have my little Halloween bat headband to go with it and be seasonally appropriate. We're going to be totally drunk with power for this episode and throw out all the rules, do whatever we feel like, and it's going to be marvelous. So, jumping right into stitching in action, first we have, this is the bat from Spooky Autumn Smalls, stitched up by Tess. She used the Call for DMC, and she dyed her own 18 count fabric. I love it. And not just because I will take any opportunity to design a bat, because I think they're great, but I love the way it came out. I love the way the fabric color looks really cheerful and yet also seasonal. Yeah, I think it's just great. So thank you so much, Tess, for sending that in. Next up, we have Baking Squirrel, and this is actually a freebie on the website. CJ stitched this up, and I love the changes she made. She changed the colors, just going through her stash, and she put that lovely little bow on the back of the apron, which is great. And then she used 18 count fabric that she also dyed, this time with coffee and some dark brown Rit dye, and she finished it by using all-purpose glue to put it into a little, it looks like a tart pan, but I guess it's like a tin candle holder from Hobby Lobby. I love it. I think it's great. And CJ is Crossings at Berry Creek on Instagram. She has some lovely finishes. So if you get a minute, you might wander over there and be inspired. So thank you so much, CJ, for sharing this. Now, what I'm stitching, I do actually have personal stitching, but I'm skipping it this time because we have so much to talk about, and I think we might break 20 minutes this video anyway. So next time there will be more. And also on that same vein, throwing out the rulebook, Stash Spotlight, because of course when I was at Shepherd's Needle, I did add some things to my stash, and I think they will show up in future stash spotlights. But I thought it might be fun just to take a little 2-minute tour and take you into the shop, as it were. And so you can experience that the way that I did. It was a lovely shop, fabulous staff, a very comfortable stitching room. So I'm going to take just a brief interlude here, put in the video where I walked around the shop and showed some of the close-ups of the displays. And if you're in the neighborhood, that is definitely a shop worth visiting. It's always hard to give a sense of just how many models there are in a shop. There are a lot of models. It is a great shop, and I will say a number of blue flower models are going to be living there for the foreseeable future, so that's probably the most blue flower models that have ever existed in one place at one time. So again, if you're in the neighborhood, go by and see. Now, I can also show the project that I did for the retreat, and it was inspired by Anne, who asked me to do. I got a little visitor here, Rye, coming in with no costume. Sorry, Rye. I tried to make her wear one, but she just wasn't interested. But Anne asked me to do a family tree. We had a little break there because Rye was very excited about something. So back now, anyway. This was inspired by Anne from Shepherd's Needle, and she asked that I do a design that was a family tree. And it was really challenging to do one that would be flexible enough for different people, especially without having information to include. You may notice some unusual names on this model, and that's because I don't like to put real people's information out there without permission, and I didn't want to just pick a random historical figure. So I used, because all of our greyhounds have been purebred greyhounds, we have access to the family tree. This is the family tree from Ninkasi, who was my sweetheart girl, and she just had the most amazing names in her background, so I went ahead and I put them in the model, although the chart obviously includes room for you to do your own, not just those of a racing dog. But that was the main one. Then I did this smaller version that was inspired by like a log cabin quilt. And I love the way it came out. Anne made a really good point while we were there that it would be a great Biscornu because it's square. You could easily do it, as a small Biscornu finish. And then we were playing around with ideas in the class, and people were talking about maybe using names of a friend group, or a found family, a group of people that you stitch with, something like that. It would be a really quick and easy stitch for something like that, and to include important people. And then I did this one last piece to tie it all together, and just reflecting the idea that so our lives are tied to so many that have come before us and around us, certainly historically, but also in nature as well. So all three of those were the project. It was such a fun retreat, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to be there and to be with some great stitchers. And I will say there are a few extra kits available, so if you are interested in one of those, you can contact the Shepherd's Needle and they will take care of you. Now, continuing the theme of just throwing the rules out and being drunk with power, I'm not doing a world around this time, which is weird because that's one of my favorite things, but I will tell you a funny story about a stink bug. And I was going to do a world around about stink bugs, but I just didn't find that many interesting things. So I'm just going to tell you the story. And as a lot of you know, I think spiders are amazing and wonderful and so important. And I am also afraid of them. So I'm sitting in the retreat with the stitchers. We're having some nice quiet time, working on our projects. It's so lovely. Everybody's chatting peacefully. And suddenly I'm glancing down at my chart and I see these two little big black legs come up over the edge of the chart. And I'm telling you, my lizard brain kicked in and I pushed back and I was on a rolling chair. So I shot clear back into the wall. So everybody's sitting quietly, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, I screeched, flew across the room, and stood up panting, and everybody saw this totally harmless stink bug standing on my chart. And so while I took a minute to get my nervous system back under regulation, because I know even if it had been a spider, it would have been fine. But the lizard brain doesn't always know that, and someone very graciously put the stink bug outside, and everything was okay. But had you been there, you would have seen the way I react to unexpected potential spider sightings. So that's my quasi world around. Now, questions. This is where we're really diving in for this video, because the last video I asked in the comments, what are some of the things that you'd like to see or hear from me for the 100th episode? And there were so many great questions. I'm not getting to all of them, but I tried to pick a bunch. So we're going to dive right in. Now, first one was show some of your oldest designs and some of your favorites. And I didn't have a chance. Some people asked for all the designs. I didn't want to be overwhelming that way, but I picked out two of my older and particular favorite designs. The first one is Garden Magic. And I love this. I've actually done a couple of these, Garden Magic, Spring Magic, and Harvest Magic, I think. But it was so much fun to do all of the different flowers and the seasonal little witch with her little overalls. And I just really, really loved doing this one. So it's a very early design, but it is still one of my favorites. The next one is called Friendship Sampler, and this one's unusual. I don't think I've ever sent it out to distributors, actually, but it was a design that Michelle Bendy Stitchy and I did together. So we picked a theme and we each designed half of it, and it was so much fun to work with her, and it was so much fun to do the design. And I had said I have this idea of like a boat, but because she loves donuts, I'm going to put donuts instead of life preservers on the side, and then I put all these animals, and she said that's wonderful, and she came up with the quote, and we did two versions, one showing both halves, and then one is this giant drum finish. And so that's another one of my favorites that, again, it's a sleeper. Not that many people have even looked at it, but I really love this one, and I loved working with Michelle. So those are two of mine. Next question, the funniest design inspiration. I know we always say, well, where do you get your inspiration? And the answer is from everything. But that's literally true. And I have a great example of recently, my husband, he went mountain biking with some of his brothers, and he had a bad fall. He's fine, but he hit the ground hard on his hip, and so he bruised his hip quite badly. And it was, probably 2 weeks later, it's going through its bruise process. And I'm just staring at him, and he finally stops what he's doing and says, what are you looking at? And I'm just like, that bruise, it's so beautiful. It looks just like a sampler motif with lovely purple roses and green leaves, and I could see the whole thing in my head. And so that was probably the funniest design inspiration I've had recently. And if I do come up with a design that has a motif of big purple roses with green leaves, you'll know exactly where that came from. So that's that one. All right, next question. How did I get started in designing? And honestly, I think it's the way that most, if not all, designers get started. You're stitching something for yourself and you just want to change it a little bit, or you have an idea for something. That's what I did. And then I moved on. I had an idea for a design that I wanted, but it didn't exist, so I designed that. And then someone said, that's good. You could do some more of it. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. But that's why I love to hear people changing things, because that's just one step on the path to having, not having the power, but feeling like you can change things and you can make the design that you want. And I think that's a really great feeling. So, all right. Next question. Elisa wanted to know my favorite way to cook green beans. And the answer is as little as possible. I like green beans as close to raw as you can get them. So yeah, I don't mind them cooked a little bit, but definitely not cooked to where they're soggy. I still like them to snap a little bit when they're cooked. So that's how I like it. All right. Next up, several people asked to describe my design process, and I actually did a little video, and I'm not going to put it in here because, again, I've got a lot of stuff going on in this episode, but it was in episode 21, I think, where I showed the development of Moonlight Sampler through my sketches and through the different iterations on the software. So if you're curious, that might be worth looking up. But in general, I'll be working with an idea or a theme. Sometimes it's a theme for an event, sometimes it's something seasonal, and I'll go to my ideas list and just pull out something that I think relates. I'll create a file on my computer, and I'll just start putting, almost like a mood board or a Pinterest board, things in there that apply. So it could be a snippet of text that I really like. It could be, often I have artists and things that I follow, and I like Art Nouveau architecture. So just the other day, somebody was showing embellishments in a building, and one of the ceilings I really liked the colors of. So I put that in a file for an upcoming design that I'm working on. I get that file going, I start putting in all the things that relate. So a lot of times there are a lot of animal pictures in there that I want to, have as reference to see what the animal really looks like when it's sitting or moving or whatever. And then I start thinking about the design in my head, because I can't draw, and I'll do more about that later. but I have to be able to kind of visualize the whole design before I can start actually working in the software to design it. And then I'm using those reference photos to see, you know, what text, what colors, what animals, that sort of thing. So that's the general idea of my process. Now, favorite viewer submission. This one was so hard. It was so hard. I can't stress enough how hard it was, but I did end up choosing 3, and they're kind of a random selection. The first one was a freebie design that I did for StitchCon, I think in 2021. And Leah had combined it with, and I can't remember who did the other piece with the cicada bursting out, because I just had this plain background. And she combined it with this bursting cicada, and I could not possibly love it more. I think it's wonderful. It makes me smile every time I think about it. So that's definitely on the list. The next one, Nicole combined Welcome Spring, which was a market freebie I did several years ago, with Alpaca Farm, the drum design. And so you can see she's got the drum in the background, and then she did Welcome Spring as I think it was a needle book, and I love the way it came out. I love the way it coordinated. So that's up there. And then Tanya did this amazing thing with Huckleberry Farm, or she just picked, I think it was just the top, couple of inches of the design, made it into a drum. She put the big butterfly on the top, and I love it. I love the way it came out. I love, the idea of taking a big project like that and just making it your own, stitching the piece that you like. Awesome. 100% love it. No notes. Everything is great. Okay. Cheryl asked to see original art I create before I design a pattern. And here's where we talk about the fact that I can't, in fact, draw. I know a lot of designers can. They make beautiful drawings. Certainly Teresa Kogut, Kathy Haberman, they all make these lovely drawings, and then they make the pattern that matches the drawing. But this is my design notebook, so you can see. And this is something I'm working on right now. This is as good as it gets for me, this kind of drawing. So you can see there's a lot of blobby bit with a label happening. And just because I can see it in my head, this helps me write that down enough so that I can get to work on the design. So those are the questions. Thank you so much for the great questions and for letting me share with you. Moving on to best thing. And this video is the perfect time to show the new releases, which are shipping out. So we're jumping right in with Poinsettia Biscornu, and I'm just going to put the pictures up here because it's a little bit easier for you to see them than me trying to hold the models and back and forth. So first is Poinsettia Biscornu. I love this. I love it so much. And I stitched it on 32 count fabric, so it's a honker. But I think I could use this as a weapon if I needed to, the Biscornu, because it's so big. But I still love it. I love the way it came out. It's exactly the way it was in my head. And I'm going to be putting full details for all of these up on the website in the next couple days, probably this weekend. So you'll be able to see. They'll be going out to shops very soon. I've got in these boxes here all the covers ready to go. So I just love this. And someone also pointed out that in addition to looking like a poinsettia, which it does to me, it also looks a lot like an oriental lily. So it would be an easy one too to change the colors of and do something if you wanted for spring. But anyway, Poinsettia Biscornu. Now everybody who knows how to finish a Biscornu has another easy one that they can do. Next up, holiday card. This year's holiday card was inspired by gingerbread houses. So here we have gingerbread bird houses. And there are 2 versions of this, one with the 2 large cardinals and one with a bunch of smaller cardinals. And I couldn't decide when I designed them which one I like better. So I just sent them both out, and Stacy stitched them up beautifully, and I just love them. I love them so much. And I used just a little bit of teeny tiny vintage style tinsel for my stash, but I think they came out great. So that's this year's holiday card. Now this one is called Merry Menagerie, and this pulls from some of the ideas that I'd asked for a couple episodes ago, where I was saying, what animals would you like to see for Christmas that you don't normally see represented in holiday things? And so I'd like to do one every year with a different collection. This year's collection is the killdeer, the blue penguin, and an axolotl, because I love them. I think they're great. And I may do more axolotl themed world around probably in the next video. But this one is actually exclusively for sale at the Jingle Ball. So this is not going out to shops, but you'll be able to get it if you bought your Jingle Ball ticket. This is one of the things that you can only get there. I'll send it out for all the shops next year. But for right now, that's that. And I used a beautiful tinsel from Lois at Lady Dot to finish it. It was nice and thick and fluffy, so it was really easy to finish around the edges of those. Next up, Snowy Snuggles Scrapbook, which I will not say quickly because I can't. This is one that I did with Steph. We've done a couple of these scrapbook ones, and this one was based around pets. So household pets that you would have at Christmas, and we had a lot of fun with that. I was told that because I put the rabbit with a carrot for Christmas, someone who raised rabbits said they actually really love bananas, and I had no idea. So next time I design a rabbit, I may have to put a banana in there instead of a carrot. But yeah, learn something every day. And then this last one is Winter Phoenix. This is one I did for a Forbidden Fiber subscription box a couple of years ago. And I really like the idea of the phoenix. I like the idea of coming through struggles and being reborn. I really like the colors kind of being a little bit more wintry and still around fire. So it was a lot of fun. They had given me an elemental theme, and obviously mine was fire. So I really enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing what people are going to do to make it their own. So those are all of the new releases that are coming out. I will also at Jingle Ball have the PDF of last year's ornament, and I'll have another special one that you'll see when we get at the ball, and why the porcupine makes sense. But that's it. On to giveaway. Last video, it was this awesome Halloween book from Teresa Kogut, and the word was cat. Lovely cat comments from all of you. The winner is Martha DeWald 664. So Martha, if you send me an email with your mailing address, I will get this in the mail to you. Now, because it's the 100th episode, giveaway this video, I'm going to choose 10 names for the next time, and you will be able to choose any one of the blue flower designs. I don't have any restrictions on that. So if it can be printed, I will give it to you. So you'll be able to pick any one of them, 10 winners, and use the word 100 in your comments. Okay, announcements. That's pretty much it for me. It's all Jingle Ball prep right now. We've got kits out. You should have your kits. It's doing the weekly updates and getting ready, getting charts packed and out for release, and working on my very well drawn new design for market that I'd love to get out to stitching very soon. So it's a busy night for us. We don't do Halloween trick-or-treating at our house because the dogs tend to overreact rather badly whenever someone rings the bell. So I will probably take them out around the neighborhood this evening so they can see the people, and we'll leave our porch light off and not be handing out candy. But whatever you are doing, I hope you have a lovely evening, and I just can't thank you enough for joining me for 100 visits. It's been a real privilege, and I so appreciate all of you who choose to share your time with me. I wish you a very happy and potentially quite spooky Halloween night, and I will talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Bye.